Welcome in, everybody. Thursday night here, another night with yours truly here, Joe Quills, and a time for another edition of the Joe Quills Show. And a lot to talk about here as usual. And that opening was not what I expected it to be. Seriously. Since I switched over to Restream this week, I've been messing around with a couple different things here. And I do have some announcements later on the show here, so hopefully things will go according to plan. So, but a lot to talk about here as we get ready for Preakness weekend, the second leg of the Triple Crown, even though we won't have a Triple Crown winner. We'll see what we have in store for you tonight as well. The NFL schedule came out officially, even though it was leaked all over the place over the last couple of days. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about just fixing some things here. We'll talk about that. I'll show you a couple of videos, and we'll get you to the weekend here. Apparently, Caleb Williams didn't want to go to Chicago. I'll give you some thoughts on that. Apparently, Aaron Rodgers was not the reason why certain games came up the way that they did on the NFL schedule this year for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And also, former MLB player was acting pretty naughty this week. Well, naughty not as in bedroom naughty, but enough to get locked up. We'll tell you all about that and more here. And if we sneak anything in there or you want to bring something on to the table, feel free to do so. Joe Quills is where I'm at on Twitch and on YouTube. We'll be back on In the Bleachers shortly. And it's just everything going on this week, and so I do want to start with one thing here, and let me actually pull something up here. Now, here's what I'm going to do first. This is something that I was looking for, was what would the Eagles do to top last year's schedule announcement video? And I laughed my ass off at this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to play last year's video first before I play this year's video. So let's play last year's video, and then we'll go to this year's video. So here's last year's video. It's called "We Gave Eagles Fans Psych Evaluations," and I thought this was funny as hell. Maybe it's because I am from Philly, but here we go.
Do you know why you're here today?
Enlighten me.
We want to assess the psychological readiness of Eagles fans ahead of the 2024 season.
You think we're ready? We're ready!
Okay, why don't we get started, shall we? What's the first word that you think of when I show you this?
They're going to Brazil to get their first loss of the season.
I see Brian Dawkins slamming Algie Crumpler right there at the link. That's what I see.
You see all of that?
Who that? Who that?
Yeah.
Who do they think they are? Who that?
Do they not know who they're talking to?
That city's drunk.
Tell me what comes to mind.
What is a Buccaneer?
Some kind of pirate, I think.
Why not just be the Pirates?
Because there's a baseball team called the Pirates.
There's a baseball team called the Giants, Doc. What are we talking about here?
Any thoughts or feelings?
No.
Took Saquon. Bet you mad about that. I think we could both play against the Bengals and spank them.
Well, I would really enjoy spanking them with you. Let's move on.
Hey, call.
Mom, have you been to Jacksonville?
Jacksonville where?
Thank you, that's all I needed.
Oh, it just makes me nauseous.
Why don't you hold on to that for a second? No? Can we do a little word association? Dallas.
Blows.
Cowboys.
Ass.
Victory.
Birds.
Taco holder.
Santa, I think you're drunk. Have you been to Baltimore?
No.
Do you want to go to Baltimore?
No.
What sound would this animal make?
Well, have you met them?
Some, yeah.
From like that side of the state?
You can take 2 L's
Yeah.
and make a W. I was at their stadiums like going to prison.
Have you been to prison?
I've seen movies.
You like prison movies? Why does Dallas suck?
Well, I'd have to answer a question with a question. Why do they think they don't suck?
The burden of proof is on them.
Yeah.
We
Create.
miracles. Say it with me.
I just did. This has been quite an eventful examination. I've come to a determination about your readiness psychologically for the upcoming season. I can tell you from my professional perspective, I think you're ready.
I'm ready, Doc.
You are absolutely ready.
I'm ready.
Thank you, doctor.
You are raring to go, as they say.
Go Birds!
Eagles! Go Birds!
Well, that was last year's video. And truthfully, I laughed my ass off when I first saw that video last year because, you know, we are known for being loud, obnoxious, you name it. Then I saw this year's video. And I gotta say, it's much shorter. It was much, well, the same Philly bravado, but there wasn't that quick one-line ding that I would have preferred that would make me laugh my ass off. In a way, I kind of cringed at this. But when I was on Captain Ron's show last night, he gave me a little bit of a different perspective because if you were to tell me to rate that from A to F, originally I'm giving it an F because I want something funny. I want something that will entertain me. Even though this video is like, it gives me Ric Flair vibes. And if you're a wrestling fan, and me, I'm kind of watching here and there, but you know, I haven't watched like I used to. You know, when Captain Ron said it's a tribute to Ric Flair, I was like, oh yeah, the GOAT of professional wrestling, not John Cena. And I'm not saying that because he turned heel. I'm saying that because Ric Flair is the GOAT. Well, here is this year's video. It's much shorter. It's less than 90 seconds. But you'll notice something very different with this year's video. Here we go. And just to let you guys know, that was me adding the woo. That wasn't the Eagles doing that. So that was the Eagles. That was the Eagles video this year. And, you know, if you think about it, it channels Ric Flair. Because you know one of his many sayings, to be the man, you got to beat the man. And truthfully, other than that, and channeling the GOAT Ric Flair, it really sucked. You know, it wasn't like the Rams where it turned into a comedy skit. It wasn't taking digs at certain teams like one I'll show in a minute. It wasn't any of that. But you do have an opportunity. You know, I mean, you could take shots at the individual teams, but you decide to go with all of them. So, but I didn't like that there was no comedy involved. Now, after I look back at it a little bit, we talked about it on Captain Ron's show last night. Yeah, it was. I understand why. You're channeling Ric Flair. To be the man, you got to beat the man. And, you know, it is what it is. And that's this year's video. And I've seen all 32 videos. Some were good. Some were great. Some were utter trash. And some were just a little slow to develop. Now, we actually saw one video. I actually saw one video while I was watching a stream last night. They showed the Indianapolis one. But it was an indie one where it was like, you know, it was kind of like dominoes in a way, but it was like with these balls and they were going around and whatever. But they probably created it at the very last minute because there was a bit of controversy with the Tyreek Hill. With the Colts one, where they apologized to Tyreek Hill and Microsoft. Now, the video was deleted by the Colts, but some people were smart enough to download the video. I found the video on YouTube, and here's where all the controversy lies, and I'll chime in as we go along as well. There we go. And a couple of teams went with video game type comments. This was Minecraft. The Chargers did one. The Colts did theirs, but they pulled it, but it ended up on YouTube. So here is the Colts video, and you'll see the part that gets them into trouble right away in week one. I'll play it again. So there's the kill. And there's the Coast Guard going to arrest Tyreek Hill or stopping Tyreek Hill just like the Miami-Dade County Police did. Well, the Colts, and the thing is, a lot of these teams take digs at other teams, and the Colts took digs at most teams. I mean, I think it was the Chargers. Not only did they take a dig on the Minnesota Vikings, they also went after the Minnesota Wild. But so apparently, Excuse me. Apparently, this was not a laughing matter. So this has been the rage the last few years that you come up with this video to accompany their regular season schedule release on Wednesday evening. But they had to remove it abruptly from social platforms Wednesday night for multiple reasons. We removed our schedule release video because it exceeded our rights with Microsoft and included an insensitive clip involving Dolphins receiver Tyreek Hill. We can seriously apologize to Microsoft and Tariq. It's a spoof of the popular video game Minecraft. And you saw the image of a dolphin wearing a number 10 jersey labeled Hill swimming along before he stopped by the Coast Guard. As you know, he had that traffic stop with Miami-Dade deputies as he was arriving for a home game. He was dragged from his vehicle, taken to the ground, and forcibly handcuffed. However, Drew Rosenhaus said today that Hill did not take the Colts post seriously, and he thought it was funny. Rosenhaus said he laughed about it and didn't think they needed to take it down on his account. So they're kind of saying Microsoft was involved as well. Now, for the Microsoft rights violation, which the Colts are claiming, that's what I'm trying to say, words are hard, it's likely that the fact that that Minecraft is owned by Microsoft and images identical to those in the game were used in the Colts video. The LA Chargers used similar content in their scheduled release video, but showed a disclaimer indicating they had permission from Microsoft. And it's unclear if the Colts have permission to do this. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue playing this video so you guys can see the rest of these rest of the games here for this here. So let's continue on with the Colts video here. Will Levis is Mayo and gets run over by the van. They're playing the Rams. He also referenced the Rappaport Schultz fight at a Starbucks.
Chicken jockey.
I don't get the reference to the chicken jockey thing with Kyler Murray. If somebody wants to fill me in on that, unless it's something that's related to the Call of Duty game, I don't know. Feel free to chime in.
Goodness. He's up to no good.
Now, all right, I'll go back about 5 seconds here. Now, the Harbaugh one, they make a reference to Michigan when he was there.
Goodness. He's up to no good. Whoa, look out, watch out, Harbaugh. He's enveloping Harbaugh. Have to take a shower when he goes in at halftime.
They mentioned how everybody left Tennessee there. Reference James Cousins and his job taken over by Michael Penix. They play Kansas City. Here you see a reference to Mahomes' father and John Rocker. This was a recent story that they almost got into a fight on Bourbon Street during Super Bowl week or the night of the Super Bowl or somewhere in that time frame. And watch how Mahomes' little Patrick shows up here. He comes in as Kermit the Frog because he sounds like Kermit the Frog. And this is a reference to one of the Houston Texans players' girlfriends, Alex Earl. Let me see here. Let me pull that up here while you look at that. She dates Braxton Berrios, apparently. Okay. So that's the reference with there. So let's go back to the video here.
Bye.
So to go to Jacksonville, I don't get the Netherbank Stadium. Is that a reference to Europe? I mean, obviously you can't use their actual bank name there, but there's a reference there that I'm missing. Okay, they're playing Seattle in Week 15. Okay, so we got the rain, Darnold and Cup, but I don't. There's something about Ward going to Indy, I believe.
Duval.
That's a reference to that Duval chant that he did when Liam Cohen first was hired by Jacksonville at that press conference. Duval. So that was the Colts schedule. And I'm not going to go through all these because I mean, if I played all 32 videos, we would be on for 3 or 4 hours. So the thing is, if Drew Rosenhaus is correct that Tyreek Hill laughed at it, okay, so be it. You know, I think that in some ways we're so sensitive over every little thing, you know, and I'm sure because I don't think the Colts played Miami last year, and I'm not going to look it up. So if I'm right, I'm right. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. So be it, you know. You know, I accept when I'm wrong from time to time. However, especially if you have a team, that did not play Miami last year, I'm sure there's going to be extra crap talking because you have the you know, they're going to, hey, we're going to, you know, they're going to bring up, you know, and this is the thing. Part of sports, and it even goes in Little League to a certain extent, because, you know, you can talk a little bit of trash. I mean, once you get to a certain age, you talk trash and you realize, yeah, that's really starting to mess with his head. So, but I don't necessarily think you want to mess with Tyreek Hill because the way that he plays, he could probably go 4 for 300, 3 75-yard touchdowns, or 4 75-yard touchdowns, you know, something like that. You know, video game type stats. That's the way that he is. But I'm sure that he will be, I'm sure he's laughing about it now, but I'm sure he will get reminded of this video when September comes around, when they play in week 1. And that game in week 1 is in, let me pull it up here so I can quote this properly. I think it's in Miami. Oh, no, week 1 is in Indianapolis. So you're going to see, I wouldn't be surprised if something like this comes up as we get closer to the start of the year. But you know what? A lot of teams took digs on other teams. I mean, and even the LA Chargers, they even took a dig on the Minnesota Wild. And sometimes, I mean, some of them were really good. Atlanta was really good with the Mario Kart type setup. And, you know, some of them were, the Rams I thought was funny as hell because it was punchline after punchline after punchline. And some, like the Pittsburgh Steelers, just made no sense. Some were just too long. Tampa Bay's was great, but it was 11 minutes, really. But then again, that's John Gruden. So I'll say this. This is probably one of the best things that has happened to social media since it was born. The fact that you get these social media whizzes and internet whizzes and, you know, influencers and all that stuff. And by the way, check out the Bleacher Brothers show from earlier tonight. It's on YouTube. The guy, the owner from Sandman, I forget his name now. Let me pull that up here as well. As I'm growing even, you know, I'm getting even worse here. Let me find it here. Griffin Johnson, that's who he is. He's part of that group that owns Sandman. And yeah, he had a great interview, but you know, there was problems on his end. And you know what? When you do things like this on the internet, like we do, and even with AJ's show where he has guests on the show, those things are going to happen from time to time. So, but I will say this. You know, even if it's just something like the Tennessee one from 2023, which was an epic one. That was, you know, the Lightning McQueens and the Boston Bengals and all the stuff that they had there. You know, and the Tennessee one was great because they turned it into a prescription drug commercial that you see usually in the mornings on TV. You see them, and, you know, it's like, this may cause this, that, diarrhea, blah, blah, blah. You know, I mean, that was a great one. But, you know, the schedule was officially released, even though the entire Eagles schedule was known by about 1 o'clock. And I asked this question here, and if you want to respond, feel free to do so, even if you're responding after the fact. What is the purpose of having? What's the purpose of having a schedule release show when the schedule is 95% known? Because I'll tell you this. Maybe I'm a curmudgeon, and I've been acting like a curmudgeon all week. Maybe it's because you can see a little bit of that gray in there. Yeah, you see that right there. Yeah. Maybe it's the gray showing and showing that I'm a curmudgeon. You know, like in here and all that. Maybe I see schedule release show, schedule release special, whatever you want to call it. You see that, but it's like everybody knows what's going on. Now, I can understand, for example, Mike Tirico on NBC saying, oh, our opening night's going to be Cowboys at Eagles. And by the way, that Cowboys-Eagles game, that's only the second time since 1970 that the Eagles Cowboys have opened the season. 1970 was here at Franklin Field, the final year the Eagles were at Franklin Field. And 2000 was the infamous pickle juice game. So I will say this, and that's the most anticipated game because it's the first game. And it's even more anticipated in the city of Philadelphia because you get to see that new banner or placard, whoever it is, because it's just affixed to the overhang. But NFL needs to do a better job of making sure this schedule doesn't get leaked. Even these games that don't mean a damn thing, oh, well, the Eagles and the Commanders are going to be playing on a Saturday game versus the NFL, versus the college football playoff. You can tell me that after 8 o'clock on Wednesday night. You don't need to tell me a day ahead of time. NFL, do a better job here. Don't leak these games because it just ruins that show. If you want people watching that show, then stop leaking. I mean, shit. Even Joe Theismann cured his prostate problems with super beta prostate. As you remember years ago when FanDuel TV was TVG, TVG was actually the super beta prostate channel because it seemed like every half hour Joe Theismann was talking about his prostate giving him fits. Well, apparently super beta prostate helped him and there wasn't as much leakage, and we need to figure out how to fix this schedule thing because it sucks that we know what the schedules are beforehand. But that's just me. So we'll see what's up with that. And one interesting thing, one game that I might want to watch is the Monday night game opening week between Minnesota and Chicago for reasons other than what you would think. Yeah, it's two division rivals. Let's see. Mike had a comment there. Even though the Eagles' schedule was leaked, the NFL had to continue with the schedule release because he made such a big deal. Yeah, you're pulling NFL was pulling Rich Eisen out of mothballs if he's doing that show on the NFL Network. The other, got to bring all the NFL people together for a night or two. It just annoys me. So, but as I was saying, the Chicago Bears, they're happy that they got a Chicagoan as a pope, and they hope that he's a Bears fan. But it'll be interesting to see how the Bears fans react to Caleb Williams, according to this new book that's going to be coming out. According to this book that's supposed to come out called American Kings, a biography of a quarterback, and wait, he's only like 22 years old, ain't he? Caleb Williams is 23 years old. Okay? If you're 23 years old, aren't you a little young for a biography? Well, with what I'm about to mention, I don't think this is necessarily a biography. I think it's more of a tell-all, more than anything else. And I think that they may not be happy, the Bears fans may not be happy with what's being told here. So, quarterback Caleb Williams was so concerned about being picked by the Chicago Cubs in 2024 that he and his family weighed circumventing the entire NFL draft, consulting with lawyers to figure out a way around the league's collective bargaining agreement while considering signing with the United Football League. Now, that was probably mentioned last year, in the lead up to the draft last year, but nothing was done. And this gives me vibes of Eric Lindros and his father, Archie Manning stepping in for Eli Manning, John Elway and his father, I think his name was Jack. It gives me those vibes. So Carl Williams, who was Caleb's father, told Seth Wickersham in the book American Kings, Biography of Quarterback, about the months leading up to the draft, 2024 draft, that Chicago is a place where quarterbacks go to die. He's not wrong, but one question I have is, what happened to hey, let's do this. Let me prove that's wrong. And maybe Caleb Williams will do that. And obviously he had concerns. His family had concerns and all that. But if it was Carolina at number one, would he have done the same thing? Maybe. But a couple of times in the past, players have tried to get around the collective bargaining agreement, even when they're about to become NFL players. Now, when you look at I'm even going to bring in college basketball into this as well. When it comes to the NBA, when it comes to the NFL, NHL has their own thing. I'm not familiar with it. And MLB has a way of doing it where you can get in out of high school, but if you get out of high school, it's 3 years. Everything is based on collective bargaining. And one name that comes to mind off the top of my head was Maurice Clarett. Now, granted, he's trying to get into the NFL a little bit early because he got himself into trouble at Ohio State. So he tried to get in a little ahead of time. He sued. But when it comes to labor law, and I know this from my days at Drexel, taking taking a labor law class. There were basically what they did was they gave you all different aspects of sport management. In most cases, labor law supersedes labor laws within the United States. So, if you're going to get a job at whatever store, whatever supermarket, just something that can get your foot in the door and build your resume or whatever, or, you're just looking to make a few bucks here or there, you got all these different things. Well, the difference is, unless there's a labor agreement between a union and a business, it's labor law that decides your situation. And, you can say, the company, and there's no, let's say I apply for a job. I didn't get the job. Well, unless you know who the other people are that were there, maybe you walk into the supermarket the next week and you see somebody there that's brand new. It's like, how long you been? Oh, a week. And then you're like, he or she was picked over me? But if it's just on the perception of best person for the job, there's really nothing you can do. But when you bring in race, creed, gender, sexual preferences, all the stuffs that are protected under labor law, then you have a case, if you can prove it. But the burden is to prove that they did that to you. But in the case of pro football, you had 3 years that you have to sit after you leave high school before you can go pro. In the NBA, it's 1. But they didn't want to go to Chicago, apparently, and they were trying to do whatever they could to get out of that. Whether it's, going to the UFL, refusing to sign, or whatever they had planned. So, and, Carl Williams is not wrong, but I don't think he realizes that union law, agreement in collective bargaining between a union and its constituents with management, in this case the NFL, precedes what normal labor law is in the United States. End of story. Now, Caleb Williams wondered aloud to confidants, do I want to go there? I don't think I can do it with former Bears offensive coordinator Shane Waldron. So obviously, you can voice your concerns with friends. It's just that this book is coming up at a weird time, because you got a new head coach going in there, a coach that is going to help him out, but it's really weird timing here, especially when you have a new coach. Now, if you had an older coach, but or maybe you'll put Ben Johnson in a better light. I don't know, but so it offers the book which is to be published in September, Coincidence? Offered a detailed account of what it means to be a quarterback at various levels from high school to college to the NFL. And what it's like for legends in retirement. So it looks like it's going to be more than just Caleb Williams, but his segment, even though they called it an autobiography, it's going to take into account it features unprecedented access with dozens of quarterbacks and generational greats like John Elway, Johnny Unitas, Warren Moon, the Manning family, Steve Young, and others. It also includes current signal callers Kirk Cousins and Drake May. So I think the thing is with that here is I call out whoever wrote this article. Doesn't say who exactly. It's an ESPN article. Or maybe I just called it a biography. Okay, American Kings, a biography. Okay, so they're telling stories of different quarterbacks. So it's not necessarily all about Caleb Williams, but he has a part in the book. So at least that's what it appears for now, until when we have it available to us in September. Now, they're also going to talk about, for example, new details inside the ruthless recruitment of Texas quarterback Arch Manning. And it's going to tell other things as well. So this book is going to offer an inside look at Williams' state of mind. Now, Dad, Carl Williams, went to great lengths to try to circumvent the draft, Wickersham writes, wanting to give his son an opportunity to choose his future employer. Now, the Bears had not drafted a star quarterback since the 1980s. Recent selections, Mitchell Trubisky and Justin Fields, didn't pan out. Carl Williams was worried with the franchise history, stadium uncertainty, and offensive performances under then head coach Matt Eberflus. Caleb Williams wouldn't have the organizational support to succeed. Well, here's the thing. We're talking about Gen Z, Gen A, or whatever generation he's in. You know, you're talking about a whole different generation right now. Me, because I'm Gen X, boom, focus. Even though my focus isn't always the best. But you do see, and when I get to the paragraph that I want to highlight, you'll be able to see the difference between what I would assume somebody in my generation would do versus Caleb Williams' generation. So Carl Williams said, I don't want my son playing for the Bears, to several agents. So looking for a way around the league's collective bargaining agreement, Carl Williams contacted Archie Manning. Now, if you remember, Archie helped Eli assert a measure of control over his eventual team in 2004. Williams also met with labor lawyers and agents and even considered whether his son could sign with the United Football League and become an unrestricted NFL free agent in 2025 to be able to pick a team. In addition to the draft process, Carl Williams vented about the rookie wage scale, which could lock his son into a team that drafted him for up to 8 years. He calculated hundreds of millions of lost market value income. And this is all part of the me first attitude that this generation has. Sometimes, when you're lower in the draft is like, yeah, I got drafted, thank God. Hey, I got a career after all, something like that. Whereas somebody who's at the top of the list, they know they have a chance to make all kinds of money. Well, guess what? I have to wait up to 8 years. Well, guess what? After 4 years, because you're a first-round draft pick, you can be extended and make all kinds of money. Look at Jalen Hurts, even though he had a 4-year contract instead of a 5. Now, Carl Williams also told Wickersham, the rookie cap is just unconstitutional. The CBA is the worst piece of shit I've ever read. It's the worst in sports history. So he's not helping his son out with these comments. But if he were to take a sports labor law class, he would realize that there's nothing he can do because the union and management are making their set of rules. Now, you could always go to labor relations, say, hey, they're not bargaining good faith. You can do this, you can do that. That's all that all can happen too. But with what you're seeing here, I apologize for going there. But what you see here, they're trying to work ways around here, but there's no ways to work around this. The NFL worked with this for years upon years upon years. The Players Association, same thing. But when you have labor law like this, you can argue, well, that's illegal. Well, if it wasn't agreed to by both sides, then it would be illegal. But the one thing that you have in collective bargaining, and we're talking about all other things as well over the last couple of days, whether it's my show or anything else. If you look at everything, you have to realize that sometimes the two sides do indeed dot all the I's and cross all the T's. Because the worst thing that you can have on either side of the fence is a gray area. Because then you get into he said, she said, and all this other stuff, and you name it. But you're looking at a case here where he may not be able to, he would not have been able to do anything because I believe what happens is if he never plays that season, as long as he doesn't sign, I think it would go back into the draft. But the problem is with the rookie salary cap and how everybody's slotted into position, he just may be stuck there waiting for his contract to expire after 4 or 5 years. And I think you would get to the point, at least I would think, that maybe I should stop acting like an asshole, sign the deal, get into camp. Now, you see this from time to time when training camp starts in July. Sometimes you will see that a rookie has not signed. It's not about the money, because guess what? When the money is slotted like it is, as agreed upon by both sides of the table, there's nothing the player can do. what they hold out on is some clauses in the contract, like, oh, I'm not allowed to play basketball on Thursdays in the off season because I might hurt my knee or something like that. Everybody there's all these certain clauses there where you can't do certain things, like you can't go snowboarding, you can't go skiing, you can't do this, you can't do that. There's all kinds of things here where if you ended up doing that, you could breach the contract, and they could, if they really want to, say, well, you breached the contract, you're gone. Not only are you gone, you're not getting paid either. Because anytime you breach contract, it's called, what's the word I'm looking for here? Getting fired with cause. For example, Bobby Petrino crashed his motorcycle at Arkansas, was having an affair with his secretary or something like that. He had all these clauses in his contract, and he violated about 6 or 7 of those clauses in that accident. So he ended up losing his job and lost all that money. But there is some things that disturb me here. But some of the things that were said here in this article and will be in the book. So Caleb had a so-so season at USC. Remember, it was the season after he won the Heisman. He was unsure what he wanted to do as he prepared for the draft. At the NFL Combine, he met with Minnesota head coach Kevin O'Connell. The two hit it off, and Caleb Williams began to dream of what it would be like to play for Minnesota. He told his father, apparently, I need to go to the Vikings. His father replied, let's do it, but both Caleb and Carl knew that a trade to a division rival will be extremely unlikely. But Bears GM Ryan Poles stood firm, telling Williams, we're drafting you no matter what. So there was only one option they had. They could publicly attack the Bears in the city of Chicago, hoping it would make the situation untenable, similar to what Jack and John Elway did with the Baltimore Colts in 1983. Carl Williamson told Wickersham of his son, he's worried about me taking bullets. I don't care. I don't agree with this shit, I'm more interested in making sure he can do whatever he wants to do. Well, here's the thing. If you think about it, let's go to the fact that, let's say I'm going for a job at the supermarket, and it's a union job. I have to wear their polo shirt. I have to wear certain colored pants. I have to wear a certain color shoes. I have to trim my beard. I have to do A, B, C, and D because that's agreed upon with the union and everything else. And also the fact these are our rules and the union agrees to it. So I don't think the father understood labor law or anything to that matter because, the son can just do whatever he wants. No. Even if I were to go to a job that is not a union shop, they have certain rules. Like, for example, if I were to go to Target, got to wear the red polo or red shirt, something red on top. Got to wear khakis, or at least they used to wear khakis. You have to present yourself a certain way because there's something called house rules. That's what you have to do with certain things. You have to follow the orders. And, but the only difference is if you're in a union shop, it's like, hey, I'm warning you, you're getting a formal warning here, blah, blah, blah. I'm suspending you, I'm firing you. You just go up the chain with progressive discipline. In the non-union world, you can just say, why aren't you wearing your shirt? And you can only say I forgot for so long, but you get to a certain point where they'll just say, no, I'm just not even going to waste my time with you. You're gone. Even if you're a good worker, they don't give a shit. They want to, that you're making $25 an hour. We can hire a person off the street for $12.50. Yeah, we're going to do that, no problem. But Caleb was concerned that if he did try and the Bears refused to trade him, it would make a tough situation worse. In the end, Caleb Williams told Wickersham, I wasn't ready to nuke the city. He had a pre-draft visit to the Bears facility. Williams believed he could be part of a success story. I can do it for this team. I'm going to do it for the Bears. So I think that, once you meet some of the people there, it's like, hey, we are going to draft you. The one thing we're going to say is don't leak any information of this meeting or anything like that. We're going to make it look like we're not drafting you, but we are. All the stuff that teams will do, especially if they have the number one pick. So the book also sheds light on Williams' tumultuous rookie season, which Eberflus and Waldron were fired, and the Bears lost 10 straight games. Now, at times, Williams said he would watch film alone with no instruction or guidance from the coaches. He said, no one tells me what to watch. Caleb Williams told his dad, I just turn it on. This is the generational gap that I was talking about. Now, I can understand in some regards, maybe you're in the quarterback room, let's call it that, with the backup quarterback, the third string, the offensive coordinator. But in some regards, you have to sit down yourself and do it too. Because the thing is, you get to a certain point, no one's going to hold your hand. No one's going to say, Caleb, you got to do your homework. You got to look at the video. You got to see these tendencies the defense has. You got to look at your video here and look at all these different things. You have to look at all this stuff. And a lot of times, some of the top quarterbacks in the NFL were the type of guys that were first man in, last man out. Some that were taking their work home with them, looking over video at home even. You can't just say, oh, I'm just here. I need some, Here's what I would suggest. Now, Ben Johnson, he may have a different attitude. He may be he is an offensive coach, so he may be in on some of those meetings. And he may be in there, especially early on, and saying, hey, this is what we did last year in Detroit, blah, 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 whatever. The thing is, you have to be the type of guy who looks things to initiate the study, to initiate the work, all that stuff. Even I admit, even with some of the stuff that I do, my articles. By the way, I did have a winner today. And by the way, I finished writing at 11:25 when I started work at 11:30 because I admit A lot of times I have zero motivation to do any work whatsoever. But sometimes you have to plow through everything. And, you know, I think what would impress the coach, the former offensive coordinator. Now, whether this happened or not, I don't know. What would impress me as a coach is, hey, coach, I saw a couple of different things in the video. Can you tell me if I'm right or wrong with my thinking here? You know, yeah, sure. Let's, you know, I think you have to take the initiative. You have to be able to say, you know what, this, and that. You have to prove yourself all over again. Whether you're pick one or Mr. Irrelevant, or even an undrafted free agent, you have to prove yourself. No matter if you're making the number one picks in the draft and number one picks money, or making the league bare minimum as a undrafted free agent. But so Caleb Williams did play relatively well despite the coaching instability. Completed 62.5% of his passes, 20 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. But he was sacked 68 times. So the offensive line needed all kinds of work. Plain and simple. Now, one concern that I have, and maybe it's just because I'm old school. I mean, you could tell I'm balding. If you think about it, I think sometimes you have to push yourself. Prove whatever. Like, for example, when I was in the Drexel sports management program, and it was during the summer, I saw that there was this intern opportunity with the Philadelphia Flyers. Now, the way that you would get credit, you know, you just let the school know. And, you know, I didn't know what, you know, I didn't know everything about, you know, hey, if I do this internship, I spelled announced wrong. Yeah, I don't care. But if you want me to fix it, oops. There, I fixed it. Then again, I was piecing this all together at the very last minute, so. But you can tell the difference between generations because he's admitting he needs to be pushed. Him pushing me is key. I know that, and he knows that, referring to Ben Johnson, apparently. I can't wait to be able to help. I can't wait and to be able to help me learn more about ball because he's super smart, super sharp. Well, here's the thing, in my opinion. You need to realize that it's not just about being handed certain things. You have to earn things. You have to prove that you earned that number one draft choice selection. You have to prove that you earned that money. You have to prove that when year 4 or 5 comes around that you're going to earn your next contract. They're not, well, I shouldn't say this because you can argue certain players have been handed huge contracts because they were next in line. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that with sports, a lot of times these contracts that you have, it's, well, this person signed for 60 million. Let's take Dak, for example. I think it's 60, 61, whatever the number is. Well, you get somebody who's a star player who is going to get that next who's going to be the next man up. Okay, well, we're going to give you 62 million per year average salary. We're going to give you 63. Then the next guy, we're going to give you 65. We're not going to go 64. We're going to go 65. Well, you have to prove yourself. And if you don't prove yourself, you're going to be Daniel Jones. You're fifth, you end up getting cut by the Giants, and you're now fighting for a job with Indianapolis. But now Ben Johnson said on the herd with Colin Cowherd, I see a chance for greatness here for him. He's been communicated in a way, and he feels the same way. He's been communicated in that way. So I don't know what game on prior to him joining the organization, but he's very proud to be Chicago Bear. That's what our conversations have included. He's really excited to get to work now and be the best version of himself in 2025. So, but the thing is, I think we're seeing the generation gap between the generation I grew up in. But also remember when players who played in my generation, they were looking for the big payday before they even step foot on the field. That's why you have that rookie salary cap. And everybody slotted into a certain position. So, but yeah, it's all, I just think the father is your typical father who thinks he knows everything, but he doesn't. Some people think that I know everything. I don't. I make mistakes too. If I'll admit I'm wrong most of the time. Mike says, in sports, when a player signs a massive contract, it is assumed he will earn it. It's an advancement on future services. True. Now, and in some cases, you prove your worth in those first 4 years or 3 years, depending on where you're drafted, because of the fact you're playing for your second contract. And part of the reason why, like, for example, the NBA, they go in early, they go to the draft as early as they do, is because they want to get into that second contract. Because the second contract is where you get paid. That's the case in the NBA. I mean, that's true in the NBA. It's true in the NFL. Hockey is its own little thing. And Major League Baseball is also the same thing, even though you can make some money in those first 6 years where the team has complete control of you. So I just think the father is also a bit misguided, but I may be wrong, whatever. And, I'm just some hack streamer. So if he were to see me say that, I'm not afraid to say it. What's it going to do? Sue me because I have an opinion? Guess what? I don't have anything for you to gain from me, so go ahead. But anyway, so before I continue on here, just to let you guys know, Saturday morning, 10 o'clock, another edition of Also Eligible. I will be looking at the races from Pimlico. It is Preakness weekend, and also if you check this evening's show, this evening's Bleacher Brothers show, Frank, who's been on my show a few times, he has been on the show, and he was on that show and he was giving out picks. He did give out sovereignty in the Kentucky Derby 2 weeks ago. He gave a couple of plays there. I think I'm going to play that. We'll get through the races there. We'll look at a couple of different races there. We'll look at the weather. I'll play that one part there. And AJ does know about me not being set up for the Bleacher Brothers pages. He is going to work on that. I'll just have to remind him tomorrow if I don't see that by 3 o'clock or whatever. But anyways, this is tomorrow, Saturday morning, 10 a.m. And we have the Black Eyed Susan, which is the race for the 3-year-old fillies. That is tomorrow afternoon. And that will be the race that I'll be looking at on BleacherBrothers.com. And check BleacherBrothers.com for your sports needs. And also, I may be getting hot at the right time because I did give out winners the last 2 days. Now, one thing I will tell you guys before we get to our next story. As I take care of the spammer here. One thing I will tell you is if one of my horses gets scratched, I will definitely give out the pick on Twitter, aka X. So I will definitely give that out on there. I think I gave it out on Facebook yesterday. By the way, Mike, this is already gone. I took care of him. So, and I'm getting to that comment in a second, Mike. I did out of the clear. I was just like, you know what? For the fact that you had an 8-horse field scratched down the 4, I said, F it. Go with the long shot. Go with the 6-horse. And the 6-horse won. Now, it was 30-1 on the morning line, but that was based on an 8-horse field running on the grass. Well, it rained in Indiana. The horse was taken off the turf. Pork Chop, welcome in. Hope you're doing well out there. But we did have a winner the last 2 days, and I actually read that race today perfectly. So let me pat myself on the back there. So that'll be Saturday morning at 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific. First race will be at 10:30 on Saturday. So I might even do quick handicapping on the first race as well for shits and giggles. So I might even, I would start like 9:30 if I really wanted to, but I don't like getting up early. Well, when I do wake up early, I do something like this. Hey, Google, what time is it?
10:37 p.m.
That's what I do. Because I have one in the bedroom, I have one behind me. And if I forget that, sometimes I should spell it out, Google, because it doesn't look for the spelling. It looks for me to say it. if I say it, it's like I'm telling Google to stop. So, but it'll be 10 o'clock. We may go a little long. I might have a bit of a surprise on Saturday. And Mike will be sitting there with me. And if this horse that I may pick wins, Mike will say, "What the hell were you thinking with this horse?" Well, he may be saying that when my horse finishes dead last, too. But seriously, that'll be Saturday at 10 a.m. And I should be back on the Bleacher Brothers channel. AJ's just got to do a couple of things with that on tomorrow. So back to the football here, even though we did veer away. Of course, we're in a world of conspiracy theorists. And it isn't just because we have a certain president in office and his millions of followers, his cult, whatever you want to call them. Well, and even we had the NBA draft. Matter of fact, I'm not going to show it. Matter of fact, I don't even know how I could find it. I forget what it's titled. But, of course, everybody has a conspiracy theory that the NBA draft is fixed because of the fact of Dallas trading away Luka to the Lakers. And, oh, by the way, the Dallas Mavericks ended up with the number one pick when they had a 1.8% chance. And when Mike was here Monday night, I said, it smells like a fix, but I will also argue that the team with the worst record no longer has a 25% chance. Their best chance is 14, I believe. It brings some of those teams that have almost no shot to slightly more from here to here. And I moved my fingers about a half an inch. So, of course, people are questioning the Pittsburgh Steelers schedule. And by the way, their video was dog shit. But the NFL was questioned apparently about some of the placement of some of the games in the Pittsburgh Steelers schedule this year. Now, Steelers play the Jets in week 1. And the Steelers and Packers are playing on Sunday Night Football in week 8. The NFL said that they did not have any inside information about Aaron Rodgers' decision when it made Pittsburgh's schedule. Because I think this was Aaron Rodgers within the last couple of weeks. He was in that dark room, So I'm guessing that is probably the case with him. Hi. So, and why is my name not showing up here? Let me see something here. Oh, okay. So I might have to, well, you know who I am, but, little things. So, of course, everybody's going to be conspiracy theorists because, the NFL's fixed. The script is set. Well, I don't think the script for the Eagles-Chiefs Super Bowl this last year was belt to ass. They might have said, well, close game, maybe a late touchdown that puts it into double digits, because we got to keep that Chiefs record intact, we got to, or maybe we let the Chiefs win a third Super Bowl because it's Taylor Swift's team because her boyfriend plays for the Chiefs. Blah, 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 blah. So NFL Vice President of Broadcasting and Scheduling Mike North said Thursday, the Steelers' national brand and body of work drove the league decision to give the Steelers prominent slots despite the unresolved quarterback situation. Here's some breaking news to the conspiracy theorists. And we saw it this year in Philadelphia. The Pittsburgh Steelers fans travel. The Eagles fans travel. They show up to games. So even if they don't go to the games, they're going to watch the games. And they know which games they're going to get the biggest crowds. And they're going to show these teams in prime time if they can, because they know they're going to get those ratings. The Steelers are good enough to get in. Now, if you were to ask me, Steelers, Packers, other than, well, did Aaron Rodgers really sign with Pittsburgh and they're just not announcing it? Maybe. Because, I'll say anything is possible with Ayahuasca Boy. I just think if you put Steelers and Packers on Sunday Night Football, even though the Steelers are a national brand, and if you saw the America's team thing, the story about how Dallas Cowboys became America's team, originally NFL Films wanted to name the Pittsburgh Steelers America's team. They didn't want that title. That's how Dallas Cowboys got it. But I will argue, even though it's Steelers Packers, and yeah, if Aaron Rodgers does sign, guess what? He's going back to Lambeau. And NBC will want to show that. Instead, you have these two teams that are going to play. I believe, and if I'm wrong, so be it, And like Mike said, I'm happy to know someone who knows about 80%, my friend Joe. I will say this. Steelers-Packers is more about the Packers than it is the Steelers. The Steelers are a playoff contender. And you may eventually see the Steelers have a game picked up, because I'm sure it happens every year. There's always a couple of games that get flexed out and, flex seal and flex all and one size fits all that stuff. You're going to have games that will get flexed out, or this game is turns into such a monster matchup that we have to put them on Sunday Night Football. And you flex between 1 o'clock and 4 o'clock as well. But Steelers-Packers, even if Aaron Rodgers does not sign with the Steelers, because I get the feeling he's going to the Saints. But that's just me. However, Steelers and Packers are more about the Packers in that game than anything else. Kind of like the Eagles-Cowboys opening night, where they raised the banner and Jerry Jones has to see a championship banner raised at Lincoln Financial Field. And old Jerry is still hoping for some glory hole. Go find that video on YouTube. You'll see the reference I just made there. But Mike North said on a conference call today, we don't know anything more than anybody else. Now, could that be a lie? Maybe. But I'm going to take him at his word. Does that make me gullible? If it does, it does. I don't give a shit. But the schedule is built for Coach Mike Tomlin and for the Steelers. And if Aaron decides to play, it probably just makes many, if not all, Steelers game a little more interesting. Yeah, I say so. Because guess what? You got a star quarterback, a fading star, I should say, playing out the rest of his career in Pittsburgh. Now, North acknowledged the league did proactively put Steelers-Packers in the Sunday Night Football slot Week 8, in part because Rodgers' decision could dramatically impact viewership and give one TV partner a significant edge over others for that week. But even if he doesn't go there, or if he plays at all, then guess what? It's still a half-decent matchup. If you put that game in a window where it does become something even bigger, we wouldn't want to unbalance maybe one of the partners. Fair. But you know what? I believe this is the case. I'm not sure, though. Because I'm sure for example, the Amazon rules have changed the last couple of years with flexing and all that. But I believe in that time frame, if both those teams are 1-5 out of the gate, and it's not going to happen, but let's pretend. Is the NFL going to try to make that a 1:00 game? Hell yeah. If there's a game that Fox or CBS wants to get rid of. Because remember, the networks can say, no, you're not taking my game. It's just that I don't know when the flexing is allowed. So, North also said, if it fell on a Sunday afternoon, for instance, it becomes a dominant story of the day. Aaron's first game against his old team. So put it in a national window. If Aaron's the quarterback, it's a great story. If Aaron's not the quarterback, it's still Packers-Steelers Sunday Night Football Week 8. And the Steelers do hold their own. They're more known for their defense, obviously. But it would be nice if they had a half-decent quarterback. Now, granted, they did try Kenny Pickett. He didn't do that well. But so they tried to play it down the middle, according to North. North also added that if there was a certainty that Rodgers would play for the Steelers, there may have been an adjustment to the Week 1 game against the Jets, Rodgers' other former team. The game is slotted for a 1 p.m. kickoff on CBS. Because up until a couple of years ago, it used to be that you would have the New York Jets at 1, the New York Giants at 4:25. If they're both playing Sunday afternoon games, let's set that straight. Jets at 1, Giants at 4, or vice versa, unless they're on a Sunday night game or Monday night game. Instead, they're not afraid to have both Giants and Jets playing at 1 o'clock because they know, especially right now, both teams are shit. And it's like, we're not going to do any of that crazy stuff. So, if we knew for certain Aaron was going to be the quarterback for the Steelers, we might have done something different Week 1 with the Steelers game. Yeah, like 4:25. So the Packers are scheduled at 4 primetime games and one additional standalone slot with Ireland against the Minnesota Vikings at Week 4. That's at 9:30 a.m. game. So North said that had less to do. North said that had less to do with the quarterback and more to do with the Steelers' track record. Their sustained success over a decade here. Coach Tomlin's never had a losing season. The Steelers have always are always playoff relevant late down the stretch, and they have a national fan base. So their body of work is what warranted the national television exposure for them. Same as a probability in previous years. And also they got TJ Watt. You know, they got a damn good defense. But you have to realize that maybe, you know, if you want to be a conspiracy theorist, go right ahead. You know, it is what it is. So, but the schedule did come out. I'm looking forward to the season. As my team is the reigning, well, it's almost 11 o'clock. I can't really scream it. The reigning, defending Super Bowl champions of the world. My team, my town, my Philadelphia Eagles. And by the way, Saturday afternoon, and I might have to record this on NBC on Saturday. I don't know if I have to free up DVR space on my TV or on my cable box or not. But Bruce Buffer is going to give the Riders up order for the Preakness on Saturday. And if you watch UFC, you know that by the time the main event comes around, his Adderall has all worn off and he's bouncing off the walls. Well, guess what? I want to see how many horses get spooked because Bruce Buffer goes, Riders up because it's time. Except with all the gusto that he gives. So, but I'm being careful with that because, you know, last thing AJ needs is a lawsuit because I use Bruce Buffer's catchphrase. So, but I will say this. Preakness should be fun, even though it'll be a wet track. So, and we'll see what goes on this weekend as well. And hopefully I'll give you guys a winner. There is a horse I like, and you won't know about it until Saturday morning. So, but anyways, one final story here, and I am pulling up my let me pull up. Okay, I'm pulling up the New York Post article because I printed the ESPN article. A name that Mike might remember because he played for some of the Phillies rivals. And that is he played for the Atlanta Braves. He won a World Series with the St. Louis Cardinals. Rafael Furcal is facing felony charges in South Florida. Well, he turned himself into Broward County Jail yesterday and was released on bail a short time later, according to court records. He's charged with aggravated battery with a deadly weapon. And wait, there's more. And throwing a missile into a public or private dwelling or vehicle. That's right. Apparently he threw a missile. Now, the court records did not list a defense attorney for Furcal. His former agent, Paul Kisner, declined to comment on the charges and did not provide a way to reach Furcal directly. The Sunrise Police Department, this all happened in Sunrise, Florida, maybe he was too busy celebrating the Panthers win or getting ready to celebrate a Panthers win. Sunrise Police Department issued a warrant for Furcal's arrest on Monday, but didn't immediately release details about what led to the criminal charges. Well, I mean, he started with Atlanta in 2000. He had stints with the Dodgers and Cardinals. He won a World Series with the Cardinals in 2011. He finished his career with Miami in 2014. And he also had an unassisted triple play in August of 2003, playing for the Braves against Cardinals. But some additional details I see here off of New York Post, because that's what I shared onto my Facebook page. And if you follow me on Facebook or you're friends with me on Facebook, if I post some stupid sports shit on there beyond my typical boring sports, my typical stupid shit that I post, the stupid sports shit, most of it is potential stuff for my show. So, that's why I do it. But anyways, according to the New York Post, so the 47-year-old told Z101's Tenchi Rodriguez, I know, who the fuck is that guy? Z101 appears to be a radio station in New York. So he told Z101's Tenchi Rodriguez, this is Furcal saying it, that he hit a truck driver in the hand with a rock as he was being attacked with a knife, though the details of the incident have not been released by authorities. Under Florida Statute 790.19, a stone or any other hard substance which would produce death or greatly bodily harm is considered a missile. Okay, so that explains things. So basically, he threw a projectile. He threw a rock. But he couldn't smell what the rock is cooking. So thankfully, I did share this because when this story came up, I'm like, So the state of Florida, as backwards as it can be, they consider a stone or any other hard substance that would produce death as a missile. So I guess if I were to throw a baseball at somebody and I was able to throw at 90, 100 miles an hour, that would be considered a missile. So that answers that question. Because the question is, what the hell is he doing? Because when you think missile, you think of ammunition that's used in war. You don't think of a missile as in a rock, a stone, a baseball. You don't think of any of those things. You think of a rocket launcher. But, I mean, this is almost borderlining in the stupid shit that I saw story, but this is not stupid shit. This is just some weird story that came up, but, it's worth mentioning. So the incident reportedly happened after Furcal returned from dropping his son, Raphael Jr., a freshman at San Jacinto College baseball team at school. Now, Furcal was twice arrested during his playing days, accumulating a pair of DUIs in Georgia in 2000 and 2004. But this is the first time that he's had something that was violent that we know of. But it is a very weird story. And, these stories come up from time to time, and in this case, just something really weird that happened. So, anyway, so once again, as a reminder, check me out live tomorrow, Saturday morning, 10 a.m. We'll look over those races from Pimlico. And by the way, the Preakness is the last thoroughbred race that the old grandstand will see. There is a race after that, but in the state of Pennsylvania, we can't bet on it because the Arabian breed of horses we can't bet on in Pennsylvania. But whatever. But I'll be looking at some of those races tomorrow on Saturday morning. I'll start looking at them tonight and look at them tomorrow and formulate my plan for the weekend. So that is it for this show. I do appreciate each and every one of you for joining me. We had Pork Chop here, Mike's here, End Service here, making fun of my quick spelling here, whatever, it happens. And I do appreciate everybody here. And we'll do it live again Saturday morning. And if you're not here Saturday morning, we'll do it live again Monday night, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. And hopefully I'll have all my channels set up here because I can actually stream the 5 different channels. And I kind of got some ideas of what I can do. I think I'm going to add one platform next week as well. So that's it for now. Pork Chop, Mike, and Sir, even though I have a funny feeling who that may be, but I don't have proof of it. But anyways, I do appreciate each and every one of you. We'll do it live Saturday morning, 10 a.m. And if not, join me Monday night at 9 o'clock. So thank you all for joining me. And you've been watching the Joe Quills Show with Joe Quills, part of Bleacher Brothers. Check out bleacherbrothers.com for all your sports needs. Check out all the ads that they have there because everything is geared towards us. So that's it. Thank you all so much. I'll see you in the winner's circle.